Michael Bay was quoted as saying that this
boy.
film,
Okay.
he wanted to make this film have a bit more heart. Do you think he accomplished that?
I think he did. I think he did. Definitely more so than the first one. There's a couple, those two end scenes, the ending of the movie is definitely way more emotional than anything you saw in the first movie, I think.
So this movie, they say that this is the first time the military has worked this closely with any director.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything? Did you hang out with military personnel? I know you were speaking before in the press conference about Tiny.
Yeah.
Did you hear war stories from him?
Oh, yeah. I heard all kinds of stories from Tiny. And, like, I watch him, and I can see how it's affected him. But also, like, he told me this story once of when they're over there, they sleep. He was stationed in somewhere in Iraq, I believe. They sleep, you know, on the sand sometimes. And there's sandworms. And you can get them just from, you know, being in the sand. And what happens is it's a parasite. And the way he had to get rid of it was he had to drink tobacco mixed with water. And he just drank a full bottle of this tobacco water concoction. And then it makes you expel the parasite. And he said it was like a ball of parasites, of worms.
That is horrible.
This is a disgusting story. Why am I telling it? But this is a story that he told me. So it's stuff like this, like all day, that he tells us. And then going on the aircraft carrier, seeing how they live is unbelievable. Some of them are on these ships for clearly months at a time, but some of them have been on there for years, and they sleep 100 people to a room, and there's one toilet for every 100
Wow.
people.
Are they co-ed?
No, not the one I was on. They were separated.
Wow.
But I mean, I was in like a captain's quarters and I was complaining about it to myself. I was like, oh, I can't do this. And I was in like the nicest room on the ship. I don't know how they live that way, and I have a lot of respect for our military.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Were the stunts more difficult this time than the last Transformers?
There was just more of them, and Mike gets really hardcore. Like everything's very frantic because he's always like rushing. He's like ADD and he needs everything to happen immediately, and so that gets kind of scary when you're dealing with explosions and wires and flying through the air out of a car and whatever it is you're doing. So yeah, it was more difficult just because of how much more of them there were.
Do you have to get training? Do you have to put yourself through training
No,
beforehand?
we should go through training, but we don't go through training.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I would kill myself. Anyways, that's why I'm not an actress.
Right.
It's been 30 years since anyone's been really allowed to film in Egypt. How was that experience filming in Egypt?
Amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and you can't help, like, you go there with these ideas of it being like a spiritual awakening or whatever, or at least I did. I think a lot of people do. And it's not necessarily like a majestic land. It's a real place where people live and work every day, and there are families, and but to be there and be privileged enough to get that close to the pyramids and be in the temples and film there it's pretty cool because nobody else has been allowed to do that. It's special.
It's very special. Well, as you were saying, Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
This,
But even they weren't in some of the locations we were in. Like, we really...
So as they say, they call it Bayos. Bayham, actually, I think is what they've called it. So you would say that a typical day on the set was Bayham.
Oh, yeah. You think... It's not like making any other movie. It's not... I can't even describe it. It's just... It is constant chaos. You just learn to function in it. You become a different person while you're filming the movie. You have to in order to survive it. You have to adapt to his pace and to his personality because he dominates that entire set. He dominates your life while you're working for him. He owns you.
Now, do you think, though, that it's almost essential to be that way for this type of film? It's almost to get everybody going, to get the adrenaline going within you guys for him to be
I think there's
like
a method to his madness.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily appreciate it all the time, but I do think he's figured it out in some sense.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
What will the audiences, or what do you hope the audiences are going to get from this film?
I just hope it's the most exciting movie they watch this summer. I hope they walk away from it and are like, holy shit.
That's what I did yesterday.
Okay, so then their mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I think that's what everybody will do.